Hello and welcome aboard Where No Pod Has Gone Before. I'm Julian, I'm a filmmaker.
And my name is Titan. I am an astrophysicist.
And together we combine science and storytelling to explore our shared passion, which is science fiction.
So join us as we boldly go and examine the worlds and ideas that captivate us.
Indeed. And today we're discussing the Andromeda Strain, directed by Robert Wise in 1971. Robert Wise, for this pod, famously the director of Star Trek The Motion Picture.
Ah, yes, I think you told me that, yeah.
And for me personally, the director of The Sound of Music and West Side Story.
Right, yes. Okay.
So he's coming into this film as
the original West Side Story, you mean?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, right.
He's coming into this film as a two-time Best Picture, two-time Best Director Oscar winner.
Okay,
right? So
wow.
There's some prestige behind this.
Yeah.
Of course, based on a novel by Michael Crichton, who I would say for whom this was his big break. A titanic figure in science fiction. Of course, you're wearing your Jurassic Park T-shirt, which is obviously his most famous work there. But I've not engaged much with the vast breadth of his work, but I've seen obviously the Jurassic Park. I've watched and read endlessly, and he created ER, one of the biggest shows of all time, which I
that's
love.
right.
It's a great show, and I think I've read Timeline. I've seen some of the other stuff, but a very interesting and influential figure in science fiction.
Yeah, and also I would say, I mean, Jurassic Park especially is like a perfect example in my books for science fiction, right? Like, I think that's what Crichton really does well, is he takes real science and he fictionalizes it.
Yeah, so pushes it a little bit over the edge.
Exactly, just a little bit, and then he creates, the actual implications of the science, and it's real, believable science, but it's definitely fictional.
Yeah,
and I mean, I think he does it perfectly. He's the textbook example of what I think science fiction should be, and where it's not about the issue that you think it is. Right, it's commenting on a whole lot of more things than just the surface level. Oh, there's dinosaurs and there's a virus and whatever. It's commenting on a whole lot of things about society.
Yes, we've discussed many times on this pod that what we love is we have those comments and those deep thoughts, but also there's dinosaurs. That's really cool.
Absolutely. Of course, Jurassic Park wouldn't be what it is without the dinosaurs, right?
And I should also mention that the Andromeda Strain has a special photographic effects by Douglas Trumbull.
Okay.
Which famously also credited with special photographic effects in 2001: A Space Odyssey, the Stargate sequence.
Oh, geez, okay.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the Mothership.
Wow.
And and of course, Star Trek: The Motion Picture, everything with V'Ger.
Right.
When Spock penetrates the craft's orifice, as he puts it, he actually says that in the film. and of course, and Blade Runner. So
Jesus, well, isn't that a CV, man? Wow.
Yeah, fingerprints everywhere.
Bloody hell.
And if you think about how those films look visually, you can easily pick out where he's working here. It's my background. The actual virus strain represented is his work. So these are huge figures going into this film. So given all of that, I was very excited coming into this. It's a film I've been putting off for a long time because I heard it was slow, and it's
right.
So I'm on a Sunday afternoon. It's like a slow movie, or am I going to put on Jurassic Park again or something?
Exactly.
Right?
It's one of those movies where I keep thinking, no, I need to do it justice, right? And I'm not in the mood to do it justice right now. I just want to watch something casually. So I need to sit down with it more seriously and give it a proper go.
Yeah. So that was my feeling coming into the film, and for my reaction coming out of the film. Ultimately, I wasn't a fan. And I'm going to
Okay.
predict that you were a fan, but I'm gonna say
Right.
say my my kind of
Yes.
gut feelings here, and then we'll get to yours. So filmmaking wise, I think it's really strong. It's always visually interesting. There's always something to look at in the frame, and the use we'll have to talk about the use of the split diopter lens.
Right.
Is so interesting, and there's a great feeling of paranoia, I think,
Yes.
in all
Yes.
the
Yes.
science scenes, and when they're above ground, the way that the widescreen plays to the expanse of the desert is beautiful. I
Mm.
do love the way it's shot, and I really enjoyed the music. Very eerie, very
Mm.
unsettling. But this story is described on Wikipedia as a tech thriller or a medical thriller,
Okay.
right? But it is so boring. It's
Right. Yeah.
so
No. There's.
boring. It's the cardinal sin for any film. It's
Yeah.
just too boring.
Yeah. There's not much thrilling about it. Yeah.
Exactly, and that is I have another problem to go with that that I'll talk about later. But really, this is just a very boring film to me,
Mm.
and I have a lot of thoughts as to why that is. But
Right.
let's talk about your reaction.
Well, I think you probably spot on. Is that, yeah? I would probably call myself a fan because I
Hmm.
did enjoy it, but when I was watching it, I was thinking of it as like, I think this is the kind of movie that I enjoy, but I wouldn't show anyone because I know that they're not going to enjoy it.
Right.
Right? I was like, I love the going into detail and the slow moving and everything. I love that sort of old school sci-fi thing that they do. But I was also saying, I was like, this is just too slow. I mean, uh, actually, I mean, speaking of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, that's exactly the film that I tried to show my sister once,
Mm,
and they literally for like 10 minutes circle the bloody Enterprise in orbit, going on and on about how majestic it is, and it's like
yeah.
this music and everything. And my sister nearly lost her mind. She was like, Jesus, get on with it, right? Like, and like whenever I mention Star Trek, that's the only thing she thinks about. It's like, oh, they just circle the ship the whole time, right? And it was the same thing here. It's like we're halfway through the movie before we even start like looking at viruses and stuff.
Hmm.
They've just been going through decontamination procedures and stuff, which I absolutely loved watching. I just thought it was cool. But I was like, you should have cut this out. This shouldn't have been in the movie, right? Like
I agree.
you should have done it quickly, like you can have a little bit of it and blah blah blah. Cool, they're all decontaminated now. But they spend like 20 minutes on it or something, right? So yeah, I mean, I would say I'm not a massive fan of it. I don't think it was necessarily well executed, but
Yeah,
I did love the old school sort of sci-fi feeling of it
yeah.
at times.
The pieces are there for a great uh, uh,
Yeah.
film, but I in a way I feel like this maybe should be a kind of 90-minute, 100-minute kind of trashter piece, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and interestingly, you brought up Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which is a film I love, but you could almost apply the same criticisms that I have here to that one, but somehow
Right.
that one
Yeah.
works in a way.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
um,
No, I mean, also, like, as I said, I love when they circle the Enterprise in the motion
yes,
picture and look at it.
agreed.
I absolutely love it. And I love the decontamination scenes here. But I know that 95% of your audience will not love it. They'll be like, Jesus, just get to the bloody lab already. You know, I mean, how much more skin do you have to burn off? You know, I mean,
Yeah,
you're decontaminated now. It's fine. You
yeah,
know?
but on the decontamination,
Yeah.
right? You have this opening scene, this opening half hour above ground, which I thought was by far the best part of the film. I was really
I think
into
so
it,
as well. Yeah, I
uh,
was too.
and it's really tense. It sets up the stakes very well, and then
Mm.
they pull the handbrake, and it's like here's 20 minutes
Yeah.
of them explaining how the computers work and
Yeah.
decontaminating their bodies,
Yeah.
which there's a kind of fetishism for technology
Yeah.
and procedure that I really like in films.
Yeah.
But where this gets it wrong is that it's trying to explain everything, where other films they don't take for granted that you know it, but they take for granted that the characters know it.
Ah. Good point. Yes.
So
Whereas here they're actually explaining it to the characters on
to the
screen, right?
characters, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I've made this point before, I think, where you don't have to follow exactly what everyone's saying and talking about,
Yeah.
as long as you get the large kind of plot machinations, I guess. But you have it sells your world and your world building and the
Yeah.
lived in quality of everything if your characters already understand it. And you could think of,
Right.
well, a medical drama like ER is the best example because you haven't gone to medical school. So you don't understand what George Clooney is saying the whole time,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
believe that he went to medical school and he understands it.
Yeah.
So we don't need to know what's happening to the patient's heart. We just need to know that they have to get a shock.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's sort of what technobabble is, right? Like,
Yeah,
show that the characters understand it. Just throw some technical words out, and the audience will be like, "Yeah, cool. They obviously know what they're doing," um, and let's move on.
yeah. And another way to think about it is maybe a military film. You have all
Mm,
these acronyms and hand signals in combat that you don't understand. But if you have a good
right.
director who has a sense of a command of space
Yeah.
and and filmmaking, yeah, film grammar,
Mm,
you're always going to know where you are and what's happening if you're in the
right.
hands of a good director. So I
Yeah.
think that
I
I do
yeah.
love the procedure. It's cool, it's neat,
Exactly. I
and everything
enjoyed.
is so well thought out and it's meticulous,
You see,
but it suffocates it.
I think it's a bad adaptation of a book because I can imagine the book being Michael Crichton
Yes,
is extremely detailed in this sense. That's
I
sort
did
of,
think this. Yeah, I
I
would
reckon,
rather enjoy reading this. Yeah.
exactly. I reckon his initial idea before he probably came up with the rest of the idea is he imagined this underground secret laboratory where you have to go through all this decontamination and everything. That was sort of his, I reckon, his starting point, right? He's like, we're going to have this virus and this underground lab, and from there he built the story outwards.
Yes.
So I reckon in the book it's extremely detailed, and he spends chapters on this, going through all the things. But it works in a book because they probably have discussions along the way, and you get background, and then you flash to other points in the
Yeah.
story or whatever. But adapting it just like word for word onto the screen, it's like, yeah, okay, Jesus, let's get a move on.
Yeah. It was just the air was completely let out of the balloon
Yeah.
by doing that decontamination stuff. And like I said, I these are all things that I enjoy in principle. It's the execution of obsessing
Mm.
over them that I struggled with.
Yeah. No,
Um,
completely.
but on that, I love the tactile feeling of everything. Great buttons, big buttons,
Yes.
great sound
Yes.
effects.
And I adored the typewriter thing,
Yes.
that they get messages from
Hmm.
throughout this film. I mean, because that's
Without
also,
the bell.
yeah, geez, like that sounds like a problem that would be real. But yeah, like I love that sort of letter by letter messages coming in because
Hmm.
it also often, these days they often have like SMSs on a phone or whatever, and you never know how much time you have to read this. Right? They show a picture of a message on a phone, and you speed read it because you don't know how long it's going to be on the screen for. Whereas if it's coming like tuk, 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 letter by letter, you know exactly like, okay, well, you're reading along, you know what speed to read at. Um, I loved it. I mean, I thought it was great.
Yeah, but there's almost like an anticipation of what's
Yes,
the next word going to be? What's the
exactly. Yeah,
president
yeah,
saying?
yeah. No, completely.
And I did think that the production design here reminded me in the best way of old Bond sets, like a villain's lair.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah,
They feel um, they feel very vast and expansive.
yeah.
The scale is very well communicated here, I
No,
think.
that's right. Yeah.
And
But I mean, also talking about the sort of messages and stuff, I think once again, probably imagining what the book is like, not having actually
mhm,
read it, they obviously sort of framed this film because I loved how it started as well with the silent opening, right? It was just like words on a screen, like these are documents from the whatever, whatever, and they're going to be released publicly. And it was just like silent and very serious, right? Almost sort of like this is based on true events, right?
yeah, but
And
also
then,
there's a sense
yeah,
that we are actually kind of in those documents.
that's exactly what I was going to get to.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's sort of like but I think they could have maybe leaned into that a little bit more. Sort of
Yeah,
like
agreed.
as we're going along, like we see pictures of all the dead people, for example. I think we should have seen the guys going along taking the pictures. Like they got the camera in their hand, they're taking the pictures of the dead people, and then we see them on the screen. Like they could have somehow lent into it a little bit more to show that like these are the documents being created. And now we're looking at them later, sort of.
Yeah.
I think that they kept remembering, like, oh yeah, we've got to show some sort of document, rather than building the film from that.
Yeah. Maybe more of a commitment to that structure, because they do hint at it exactly. with the Senate hearing and Dr. Stone, I want to say.
Oh yeah, I know. Geez, I don't know any of the characters' names.
Hold that thought. And I mentioned Bond there. I think there are two other films, science fiction films, that came to mind here. If you want to have a guess at any of them.
Well, I mean, when you mentioned 2001, I mean, I was definitely thinking those sort of interiors. Yeah.
So I think there's a huge influence of 2001 on this film.
Okay, yeah.
That really can't be understated, because this is 3 years after that, and 2001 was proof that mainstream science fiction by big Hollywood studios was a viable option.
Right.
So maybe this is probably one of the first big ones after that. I would need to check that. But I feel like the pacing is really trying to capture some of that 2001 feeling, especially with the Hell 9000 section of the film.
Right.
But where 2001 is very slow paced and meticulous, I guess, to the end of abstraction. That's the point, right? It's an abstract idea. It's trying to make you think beyond the confines of what you're seeing. This is far too literal for you to be doing that.
Yes. Fantastic opinion. Yeah.
This needs to be a thriller. It needs to be race against time. There is one, granted, but this really needs to be sweat running down your forehead as you're looking over the screens and everything. This is far too slow and contemplative for this material.
Yeah, no, you're right, because it's far more based in reality, and there's like a real sort of threat and a real thread that you can like focus on throughout the film. So yeah, I see what you mean. It's like they tried to get that sort of feeling that 2001 gets across, but it's trying to achieve different things. The films,
But 2001 is trying to like get you to think about your place in the universe and all these amazing thoughts, and it changes the way you see cinema. This is a thriller. This is not. It's not that hard.
It's tried and tested. There's a formula. Just follow it.
Play the hits. Play the hits. They're hits for a reason.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I think 2001 taught this film that is maybe the wrong lesson is that Kubrick deliberately went for a cast of nobodies or non-stars, right?
Okay, yeah.
And I think they went with that thing, and this is maybe one of the driest casts that's ever led a major Hollywood film.
Yeah, no, I think so. Because I mean, also like the two leading guys, I kept getting them confused. The doctor and like the lead scientist, they look identical. They've got the same character, the same personality. I mean, the only reason I could identify the other guys because he was like a little bit older than them, right? Whereas those two main guys, I was like, this is the doctor, right? Or no, and then so. No, you're right about that.
I'll touch on the other film that this made me think of, and then we'll go back to the cast, because that's 90% of my notes here on my notebook.
Okay, right.
I also thought of Close Encounters, especially the opening.
It's been a while, but remind me.
The opening here in the Andromeda Strain, where the initial contact with the town and the scoop, the army guy's going to collect up the scoop satellite, that it plays out in a radio station, and so people hearing the transmission. And a similar thing is done in Close Encounters, where there's a scene with air traffic control, and they're talking to pilots. So we're not in the cockpit, right? With the pilots are seeing UFOs. We're with the air traffic control. And
Right.
I love this little gimmick because it what it does is everyone's doing their job and they're almost kind of bored,
Yeah.
and then they kind of perk up because something out of the routine has occurred.
Right.
And so everyone is like, "Wait, what?" And they're all opening books for procedures that they've never had to use. They studied
Right.
them 10 years ago. They'd never had to use these procedures, and now everyone's off their feet. And the way that that air traffic control scene builds in Close Encounters is you have one air traffic controller talking to pilots, and eventually everyone takes off their headphones from their own workstations and is gathered around the radar station of
Oh, hectic.
the guy who's
Okay.
talking to the pilots,
Right. Yeah.
culminating in, "Do you want to report a UFO?" And they
Right.
say, "No, better not." But that
Right.
building of
And
everything,
it's also shrouded, right? It's like they could show
exactly,
you this happening, but by putting you in this removed position, you also crowding around the monitor, wondering what's
exactly,
happening.
and
Yeah.
the way the broadcast is coming through in the Andromeda Strain is
Yeah.
it's like, "Oh my god, everyone's on the ground," and you're kind of your imagination
Yes.
is making it worse,
Right.
right? That's what it always does. The shark and Jaws. Your imagination is always going to make it scarier and more unsettling than it really is.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
great way of opening that, and they, to an extent, they maintain that level of tension when they go in, and the idea of keeping the helicopter at bay,
Mm.
and it's so exciting. Like, oh, two survivors, when an old drunk and a baby, they couldn't be
Yes.
more um, far apart. It's
Yeah.
so interesting,
Yeah,
and
it's
then
like
it's
it's
deflated after that.
definitely a mystery. They're keeping it, and you're
Yeah,
like, just get eyes on the ground. We need to see what's going on. Um, but then, yeah, as you say, they lose it. But I mean, that also just brings me to, I mean, probably one of my favorite sort of shots of the film, because this film it did it a couple times where I don't know if I've ever seen this before, where they sort of put the main image to like the side of the picture, and then they had like other
yes,
images in it. And there was that one scene where they're going from door to door. And you see, this is when I think they should have had cameras taking pictures. It would have made it even more realistic.
yeah,
But they were going from door to door, looking in the windows, and then you get the image, obviously, from the files, right? The classified files of the dead person in that door
yeah.
showed on the right hand side of the scene. I mean, I thought that was beautiful, that shot.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff with split diopter lenses.
Okay, is that what that is?
So it's a half moon shaped curved piece of glass that goes onto your lens, and then you can have two different focal lengths at once.
Oh
I
wow.
guess for
Okay.
you, the one you would most easily remember is Jaws, when Brody is looking over the guy's shoulder. The guy's like in his face, talking to him at the beach, and he's looking
Oh
over his
yes.
shoulder, and like
Yes,
some
yes,
kids
yes.
are screaming. Right, so
Oh
you
right.
can often
Okay.
see down the center. You can see a little blurring effect where the border of the
Okay.
glass is.
Interesting.
And I think this film must hold the world record for split diopter shots, because there's always frame left is a close up, and frame right is like deep background of the
Oh, is
monkeys or
that what
whatever.
yes, okay.
Yeah,
Now that okay, because I was noticing it, but I didn't know what I was noticing. I noticed something was weird about it, but now that's exactly what I was noticing. Yeah,
no,
okay.
it is an uncanny effect, and it is
Yeah,
being used to put you ill at ease. And I think, like I
right.
said, I think visually this film is
Yes.
really quite excellent.
Yeah, I agree as well. I mean, with the colors and stuff as well. I mean, I
Yeah,
love the.
yeah,
There's no reason. They try to explain it. They're like, no, we've done some naval research for colors and whatever. And I'm like, okay, whatever. You just wanted to have a red lab. I mean, cool. I'm down
yeah,
for it.
yeah. It's like no submarine ever has had different levels.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But
um,
yeah, I mean, I loved it. The red lab and then the white lab and everything. And I
yeah.
love those colors.
But a shame that they kind of settled on beige. Or
Exactly. The actual lab that they get to in the end is the boring one. The red one should surely be the most intense, right? Like that should be the lower level where they work all
Yes.
the time.
Yeah. Agreed. So yeah, I'm gonna unpack this issue of the cast, right?
Yes, right.
And I think similar to how I said that this is a case where traditional thriller storytelling methods would actually be better. This film is a case in favor of the Hollywood star system, movie
Okay,
stars,
right.
right? Because movie stars have baggage with them. No matter what you what you think of the character, everything, you're always going to relate to them in part with who they are as a movie star. So
Yeah, sure.
Tom Cruise, you don't think of him as Maverick or Ethan Hunt. He's Tom Cruise. You
Yes,
relate to him as Tom Cruise.
sure. Yeah.
So when you put someone like that in a film, you're actually not casting them for the character. You're casting them for the juice they have, whatever
And the
that thing is.
familiarity, right? It's
Exactly.
sort of like
Whatever that thing is, that
yeah,
the way in which you relate to them, that's what's being used.
right.
So a great example, I think, in science fiction is Keanu Reeves in The Matrix, because he
Okay,
is kind of blank and dry in a way, but that makes it so easy for us to project onto him all in the way
right.
that everyone in the Matrix in the film projects onto him their
Yeah,
desires for what he should be. And it makes him so easy to relate to as he's experiencing all these weird things.
yeah, right.
So if you're having four doctors, right, who they're
Yeah,
doing, they're all doing the same thing. One of them should be like Meryl Streep. One of them should be Ryan
yeah.
Gosling.
Yeah, not all of them. I don't want all four of
Yes,
them, but like you need to have one that spices it up, right? Like
and
the
then
lead scientist should have been someone,
and you
or
were
the doctor.
and you were struggling to follow
Yeah,
who was who.
yeah,
If one of them is Ryan Gosling and the other is Michael Fassbender,
yeah.
you
Sure,
know exactly where you are all the time.
exactly. Yeah,
And
no,
it's
for
so
sure.
easy to follow. You don't need to know character names, right? That's it's the brilliance
Yeah,
of the movie star system. So this is such a missed opportunity in that way, I think,
yeah.
because there there's a there's a serious charisma vacuum here,
Yes,
and
yeah.
I think the woman doctor is the only one with an actual personality.
Yes. I mean, I don't know if I agree with. I don't know. I think I didn't like her character, but like she
But
was
that's
the only
fine.
one with a character, right?
Yes, but that's fine. You
Yeah.
don't have to like every
No,
character.
exactly.
That she is prickly is interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't like the character, but she had one. So yeah. No. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose the other guy who was like obsessed with saving the patients a little bit
A little bit,
in
but
the beginning. He's like, I've got to get to the patients.
yeah.
Pull on that thread a little bit more, I would say.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, there's also that detached feeling that we have with these characters is also, I think, enhanced by the foregrounding of the tech.
Hmm.
Right, that's always being explained to them. Everything, just have them understand it inherently. Right.
Yes. Yeah. Because they also, they kept, they weren't sure. I was never sure if how well these scientists know each other and how familiar they are with all of this.
There are a
Because
few hints, yeah.
but they kept sort of saying like that they know each other, but then it was also like, oh, why did you choose him or whatever? They weren't like a team necessarily. And then it was also like, they should have been familiar with procedures similar to this, right? And it's like, oh no, but this is not the way that we usually do it. Now it's different or whatever, right? So if you're going to explain it, it needs to sort of be in a sense that like this is different to what you normally do, the procedures, right?
Yeah.
Um, whereas they were just sort of, it's as if they've never been through decontamination before, right? They're like, why are we even doing this? But yeah.
And I think that there's one instance where both instances I have in mind is with the woman doctor, but one is where she thinks of the guy who's it's Hallmark, Mark Hallmark,
Oh, right.
where I think she kind of looks down on him because he's a surgeon, and it's not real doctoring in her mind or something
Oh,
like
I
that, because
see. Yeah, something
she's
like
in
that.
research.
Right.
And then she makes a comment about Dr. Stone, the head of the Wildfire Project, who she makes a comment about like our esteemed Nobel Prize winner. She says sarcastically or
Yes,
something.
yes,
It's like these
yes.
little hints of personality clashes are actually, oh, I need more of it, you know?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, no, because yeah, all the other doctors were just doctors, right? There
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like the serious one
So
and then the
dry, yeah,
passionate one and then the angry
exactly.
one or whatever. You know, like you've got to have they've got to be very different to each other. It was just like, yeah, no, these are the doctors.
Yeah, and this is the
Yeah.
70s, so I'm not in favor of this, but not let's say I'm not condoning this behavior, but have one of the doctors maybe be a little sexist, right?
Yes.
That's an
Yeah.
interesting thing that you can develop,
Right.
right? And like I said, personality clashes, and I had this thought as well. It's like, just imagine if you had the cast of Alien dropped into this scenario, and they're all the
Right.
doctors, because they
Yes.
just feel the way that all those relationships bounce off each other is just
Mm.
electric, right? It's
Yeah.
so good. That's why we
No,
keep
for
going
sure.
back to that film. You
Yeah.
just imagine something as potent as that in this scenario.
Mm.
It, sky's the limit, you know?
Yeah. Because then during the boring scenes, at least you have something to watch, right?
Yeah, and
You're watching the
exactly.
interaction between these characters.
Yeah, and maybe all the kind of interpersonal office politics, right? Because
Yeah.
we'll talk about some themes in this film, but when you have human characters bouncing off each other, you're going to have human themes and ideas,
Yes. Right.
right?
No, of course.
That's kind of what we're looking for here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always say, I've been saying this on the pod a lot, I feel like, but it always comes down to characters. If you're going to care about your characters,
Mm.
care about them surviving or
I mean,
or
throughout the whole
career
movie,
success.
yeah,
Yeah,
throughout the whole movie, I really thought that these guys were all going to blow themselves up at the end. I was like, they're going to die for sure. Like this is going to be. That's why it's all classified and everything.
yeah.
This is how it ends. They all exterminate themselves, and that's why it's all classified and whatever. So I wasn't caring about them. I was like, but they're all going to die. So,
Yeah,
um, which obviously doesn't happen, but yeah, that's what I was sort of expecting. And then I was like, yeah, okay, well,
might have been more
they can
interesting
die.
for
It doesn't
me
doesn't
just to
matter.
see them all die once and for all. And
Yeah.
another thing I had is you have this hint at politics, right, with the president, and there's this one guy
Mm-hmm.
who doesn't understand anything, but he just hates that he has to talk to these scientists and liaise with the president with them.
Yeah, the one line, what was it? We've had experiences with scientists before. I was like, what the fuck are you, what are you talking about, man?
And the president will be very glad to hear that he chose the right option in the first place, right?
Yeah.
But again, that's interesting. Let's put in bureaucratic hurdles for these characters.
Yes, right.
That's such a truthful thing about science in the first place, right? That we've spoken about, I think, with Contact. So I just ultimately I think that there's this movie is frictionless, where we
Yeah,
need friction between the main characters, the doctors, their relationships, and the friction between their work
completely.
and society and what it means for the world.
I mean, also, we've mentioned the broken bell on the communication machine as well.
Yes.
I don't think it actually ended up having an effect. They just
No.
didn't get the message in time, right? It wasn't like because they didn't get the message, now the things got out and now it was just like, oh, you haven't done it, you should have done it. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, we haven't, we'll do it now, It didn't really have an effect. So I thought that was going to be like that little piece of paper is the reason why the world is now infected,
Yeah.
but it wasn't really. It was just like,
which could say something about our reliance on technology.
Exactly. It sounded like a very Michael Crichton sort of thing, right? It's sort of like you're trying to, it's exactly like Jurassic Park. You're trying to control this thing too much. And if you've got a system that you're trying to control too much, it's going to break down at some stage. Yeah, exactly. So I thought when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, it's the little piece of paper that's killed the world. And then it wasn't that, right? I was like, oh all right. It was just embarrassing for the that security guy who was like, I have one job. It's to wait here and listen for the bell.
It's like, we've been getting all these communications. The bell didn't ring. It's like, I have them here, buddy. Yeah. My last thought on all this, right? I feel like this is like if a science fiction fan like you or me, a science fiction fan set out to write a science fiction story, but they were like, oh, I hate all these things where, bloody office politics and the government. I hate all that stuff. Let me get rid of it, right? So let's, for example, Tom Skerritt's character in Contact, right? Her mentor, who he's kind of stealing the credit for her work. He's a careerist, not really thinking about the world. He's just thinking about himself. Really frustrating.
Yeah.
And it is frustrating to watch.
Yes.
So it feels like a fan went and wrote this film. So I'm going to take out all that stuff, but
take out that character so that it's satisfying.
But then they don't understand why those things are there in the first place and why they work.
Yeah,
right.
No, for sure.
And shooting themselves in the foot. So I'm going to do all these things that I think are cool.
Yeah.
And you're kind of missing the point on why.
What a story needs.
Yeah,
right?
so
the
exactly.
Elements of what you need to tell an interesting story.
100%. And this is a thriller, and there are no thrills.
No.
So, and maybe we could talk a little bit about some of the science that's presented here.
Yeah, I mean, I think just in general, brilliant science, just sort of, whether it's correct or not in all aspects, I think is irrelevant. It just sort of looks cool. It did feel to me that they were like doing science, right? But a few sort of strange things. I mean, firstly, I was going to do a little bit more research on this, but I just sort of did a vague check on it. But like the whole odd man hypothesis, right? They hyped that up a lot, and I reckon, I was going to try and find some actual data on that, but I reckon that's complete nonsense. I reckon that's a very sort of 70s sort of idea. And I don't know why they hyped it up so much. Because sure, he went and put in his key and stopped the bomb and everything, but he was in complete agreement with everyone, right? Like I the whole thing is like, no, he's being chosen because he's going to be the one who makes the right decision in the tough circumstances, right?
Mm-hmm.
But everyone was like, yeah, no, you need to shut it down now, right? I thought the whole movie, I was like, it's going to be a point where he now does have to make this decision, and he makes a questionable one in the end, right?
Yeah, but the decision is taken away from him because there are some very weird plot mechanics at the end that I want to talk about.
Right,
we'll talk about science first, but I want to talk about how that ending is kind of a cop-out.
Okay, interesting. But yeah, I mean, the one thing that I loved about this is when they started, I mean, I don't know if you sort of clocked it, because I clocked it just before they said it in the movie, is they were saying something like, this Andromeda Strain, because they start to discover it, and it's this crystal structure, right? Rather than a normal cell. And I mean, this sort of probably brings me to my best science moment of the film, is sort of the definitions of life, right? I mean, it reminds me of a time back in, I think it was grade 9 or whatever, in science class, going through what makes life, right? And so it's got to breathe, it's got to do whatever. And I was purposely trying to find examples that counteract those definitions. So like, life has to consume something and excrete something. I'm like, yeah, okay, but a car does that, right? A car consumes petrol, excretes smoke. And then I remember I got in trouble. I got my teacher pissed off because she's like, oh,
I can picture you doing this.
But there was a breaking point, because it was like, and another thing that organisms do is they sweat. And I said,
that's terrible.
But cheese sweats. If you leave cheese out on a hot day, it sweats. And my teacher, she was like, no, okay, Titan, shut up now.
That is so I rewatched Dead Poets Society the other day. That is
Right.
so like, you're gonna do the textbook, as we say. There's
Exactly.
no
Exactly.
room
Yeah.
for anything else.
Yeah. Like the teacher was like, "No, okay, cheese. Shut up now. You've
Yeah.
had your fun, you know."
Let me
But
just do what I need to do to get through my day.
exactly. But I was like, cheese sweats. Have you ever seen it? Right.
Indeed,
But
it
I mean,
does.
that's exactly it, right? Is when you really get down to it, like, what is life? What makes a living organism alive? It's very difficult to answer that. And they were sort of touching on it with this, because they started saying it doesn't have any DNA, it doesn't have any RNA, because already something like a virus does not fulfill most of the criteria to be considered alive. The only reason we sort of vaguely consider it alive is because it has DNA, right? That's pretty much all a virus is. It's like a little capsule that contains some DNA inside of it that allows it to self-replicate. Whereas this now doesn't. And I did a little research, and apparently we have now, since this film, discovered some organisms that don't contain DNA, and they are infectious. They're not considered alive, but I think this is similar to sort of moments in Jurassic Park where science fiction predicts reality, right? Because there's a history of that in science fiction, obviously, that they touch on science in science fiction, which later becomes a reality. And this is maybe the closest that this film gets to, not quite, but where we now start to discover things which are not fitting our existing definition of life. And that's why they're so confusing, right? They discover this thing that's made out of crystals, and it's wreaking havoc, right? So I mean, I really love that whole sort of idea there.
Yeah. What is going on with that crystal structure? I was wondering, because it kind of lost me there. Is it? Do you have a grasp on that? When it starts mutating and all that?
I mean, not fully, because look.
Or maybe we're not supposed to have a grasp on it, I guess.
Yeah, and but also remember, I am a physicist. We are notoriously very opposed to biology, right? So this is definitely not my field. But I mean, I do know what crystal structure means, right? Crystals are, so I mean, the sort of definition of a crystal structure is where you have atoms bonded to each other in a lattice. All right. So ordinarily you have individual molecules that build up matter. So you've got like little groups of atoms bonded to each other. Whereas a crystal is a macro structure. So you don't have these, like, it's as if you were to build, normally when you build a wall, you build it out of bricks. But imagine if you just built a wall out of one solid piece, right? That's sort of what a crystal is versus molecules. Yeah. So that's sort of what they're saying here, is that the individual cell is a crystal, and therefore I think that's sort of why it can sort of grow rapidly in the way that it does, because it doesn't have to reproduce as such. It doesn't reproduce descendants which then reproduce and make more descendants. It just sort of builds itself more and more and more, unlimited. So I think that's sort of the idea.
Yeah, it feels right.
But it's, as far as I know, I don't think we've discovered anything quite like that. But it's something which I would imagine was quite sort of fringe back in the day when this film was made. But it seems to be the sort of thing that, we were talking about life on Titan in our previous episode. And that's the kind of life.
I thought about bringing this up and rage baiting you, but
yeah, well, I was definitely thinking of it, right? Because I'm like, yes, that's exactly it. You've discovered life which is not like life as we know it, right?
Yeah, and it changes all your conditions and parameters for what life could be.
So it's not what you're expecting. It's an entirely new definition of life. You have to decide whether or not it's alive. It's still carbon based. I mean, they never talked about silicon or anything, or methane or whatever. But it's entirely different. And there are lots of sort of theories that if you were, they said it was based like that because it survives in outer space, and that's a sort of it's something which I'm not 100% sure of, but some people are looking for life that just lives in space, right? I mean, we've tested it. It is possible. There are some, they call them extremophiles. They are
Mm-hmm.
like microbes. So you know what a tardigrade is,
Of
for example.
course, come on, I've
Exactly.
seen
So the
Cosmos.
okay, right, yeah, of course. So the little water bear things. I mean,
Yeah,
those, for example, can live in outer space for certain periods of time, and they are much more simple organisms which can live for much longer. So you
yeah,
can theoretically have life that lives in space, which is sort of what it sounded like this might have been, right? Um, and to make it something like that, which is very different to life on Earth, to make it completely crystal based, that makes sense. That's sort of a very interesting thread in the movie.
yeah. There are other things with science going on here. Um, I think we so thematically, really, that's where I'm suggesting we go,
Right.
because I think there is a strong Crichtonian Jurassic Park thing of the limits of science, right?
Crichtonian. I love
Yeah,
it.
how ill-equipped we are on the fringes, right, with things that might be dangerous. So, yeah, I think that's one of
Mm,
the
mm.
ideas going on there, and maybe there's also some morality stuff with Project Wildfire,
Yes, right.
which I believe is a kind of biological weapon research station. It's its actual intention, right?
Yes.
Um, so it's all there, right? It just I ultimately found that it was kind of underbaked
Yes. No, I agree because I
because
mean,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Because
no, no.
yeah.
I remember the one thing that I'd forgotten to mention is something I picked up on just before they actually mentioned it was they said the organism absorbs everything, but it doesn't excrete anything.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
immediately
so
I was
it's
like,
not life then, of course.
no, yeah, well, right, exactly. My teacher would have been really upset with me. But immediately I was like, oh, well, that's a bomb, isn't it? Right, like
Oh, you got
because
there before the film.
well, like a second before it,
Nice.
right?
Okay.
Like
Well,
like just
that's
before
still
they said
cool.
it, I was like, oh shit, they're gonna make like some sort of biological bomb or whatever.
Well, the other
Um,
part of the thing that's hanging over everything is the 712 order. Is the president going to drop a bomb on
exactly, yeah.
the town in New Mexico?
But I mean, I was disappointed because I mean, the whole sort of angle there was that if we drop the bomb, this will happen.
Mm.
But the sort of conditions that they presented, you could have made a bomb without the nuclear bomb. You could have just made a bomb from this stuff, right? You give it enough stuff to eat or whatever, and it just multiplies very rapidly and produces a lot of energy, and then that's sort of your bomb. And I thought this thing might have, was going to explode or whatever at some stage. I mean, I
It's
sort
very
of suppose that's kind of what they were going for, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of
yeah.
that.
That's very Project Hail Mary, I think, with the astrophage. That's what it's called.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking of as well. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So the themes are underbaked, right? And
yeah,
I'm saying this again. If you have a more potent cast, you
yeah,
have room for those things to develop because the characters will react to them
yeah,
in more interesting ways, right? So, and I do think we've spoken about this a couple of times in other films, but there is a Cold War thing hanging over this, where
right.
all the secret testing in the desert, government research into weapons and stuff, the lack of accountability,
Hmm.
and again working on the fringes is that what is the morality at play here, and that's
Yeah,
kind of what it's
yeah,
asking us. Again, it's there, but it feels a little underbaked. But I do think that's what they were going for in a
yeah.
sense.
I think so as well. Yeah.
Also, I enjoyed science wise. I didn't enjoy the animals.
Okay.
Seeing them because they would have been gassed on set. I did see in
Oh,
the
is that
credits
what it was? Oh, snap.
I
Okay.
did
I was
see in the
wondering how
credits
they.
that it was under the supervision of the American Humane Association, something like that. Wasn't a pretty watch.
Okay, sure. Because I mean, I was wondering how they got the animals to react like that, but okay,
Yeah,
geez, that's quite harsh.
I mean, you're supposed to feel uncomfortable, I think, but
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
more uncomfortable with the actual use of animals, like live animals, for
Yes.
filmmaking. Right?
Yes, yeah, yeah, for
Didn't
sure.
love that, but to my main point, when they are working out the size of the alien virus, I thought
Mm,
that was really cool and an example
yes.
of not spoon feeding the audience,
Exactly. Yeah,
because
because you get it, right?
there's a pipe going from one
Yes.
cage to another and then
And
to
he's not
another,
dead, he's not dead.
and there's
Oh,
a
now he's
filter,
dead. Yeah.
and there's a filter. So
Yeah.
it's so easy to follow, and
Yeah. No,
it's
it
done
is.
very well. I love that part.
And I think it's sort of quite accurate to what they probably do in real life. It's
Yeah,
probably a little bit more high tech these days. They don't kill monkeys and stuff, but it's that sort of idea, right? It's you have
it's
a
probably
filter.
an existing piece of equipment that they used.
Might have
Must have
been,
been, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
might have been, yeah. I mean, I'm sure they still do some stuff like that in certain situations, but you can probably achieve a lot of the same stuff with sensors these days, right?
hmm,
But you
yeah,
still have that same sort of idea. You say, right, well, let's see when it starts arriving in the next chamber.
yeah,
So
and
yeah, no, it was a good sort of exposition of scientific logic there. It's like, right,
yeah,
it's airborne. Now let's see how big it is in the air.
yeah.
It was like step by step, good science. Yeah.
And there's another thing about the pH levels, right? So there's a
Mm,
very narrow band of pH in your blood that makes you susceptible to to the virus. And this revelation is just like kind of flat, and
yeah,
and like obviously medicine presented on screen is not inherently thrilling, but how many, like, come on, house ER medicine
yeah.
can be thrilling if you
It
just
can
present
be
it
if
in
you
a
do
certain
it
way.
correctly. Yeah, yeah.
So um, I think that's all I have really science wise that I thought was interesting. Do you have a worst science moment?
Yes, I absolutely have a worst science moment, but I'm actually quite interested to hear your thoughts on
Oh,
whether or not it's a good storytelling device.
okay. So it's
Because
in my arena. I thought you were going to ask me
no,
science
no, no,
questions on the
because
spot.
it's very random, and I will first talk about Jurassic Park because something that I mean, it's very obvious once you know it, but I probably only heard about this maybe a couple years ago. Is the foreshadowing in that film is
Okay.
when Dr. Grant is in the helicopter and he's trying to put on his seatbelt and he has two female connectors that can't go
Yes.
together,
Yeah.
and then he finds a way, right? Life finds a way to tie the two female connectors together.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that, but once you realize that, you're like, oh my God, that's brilliant.
Yeah. And there's
So
no way it's not intentional, right? That's
it's
so.
absolutely
Yeah.
intentional, right?
Of
Like, but
course.
it's they don't bring attention to it. It's not at all highlighted. That's why I've watched this movie first when I was probably 6 years old or whatever, and I
Hmm.
only found out about this a couple of years ago. But that's why I'm wondering maybe if this is one of those, because it was a terrible science moment when we first come to the doctor, whatever his name is, Hall, maybe that guy, the guy who cares about his patients.
Oh, that's a Mark Hall or Hallmark.
Hallmark,
I
yeah, no.
enjoyed that moment with the computer. I will say that. Got a little chuckle.
But so when we first get to him, they come and find him in his theater, right? His operating theater.
Yeah.
And he's all ready to do surgery and whatever. And they're like, no, you've got to break scrub, you've got to leave. And then he takes off his mask before he leaves the operating theater. And I was like, and now you've ruined everything.
I did.
You've
I thought of that. I actually thought of that
okay.
when it happened. I was like, open the door first.
Yeah, exactly. Because surely what I understand from sort of medical scrub conditions is it doesn't matter if it actually is or whatever. You've taken your mask off. Now the entire room is contaminated.
Yes.
We treat it now as a contaminated room
Yeah.
because you've taken off your mask. So immediately I was like, well, that's terrible science. So that's my worst science moment. But I'm wondering if maybe that was foreshadowing.
I can't see.
Because,
I can't see where you're going with this. So I'm very interested.
well, because like, so that's him breaking containment, right? He's sort of, everything's sterilized, everything is contained, and they're under these sterile conditions. And he takes off his mask, and that's sort of foreshadowing. We've got this extreme lab underground where eventually the virus escapes. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a bit of a stretch.
This is a long shot to me.
Okay,
It's a
okay,
bit of
I
a
think
long
so.
shot to me.
I mean, I was trying to find a reason for why they did that because it was like a close up, and then he takes off his mask, and I was just wondering, like
I think
maybe
that's probably just his trying to express his frustration in the moment.
right, right, okay,
Um, and maybe in the 70s that was tolerated. I don't know about
not a bad point. Yeah,
surgery conditions back then.
not a bad point.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think so. Sorry.
Yeah, I think no, I agree. It was a thought that came to me that might have been the case, but I also don't think it was probably it.
Yeah.
I mean, the only sort of honorable mention for a questionable science thing was the what I think was probably a misuse of the terms meteors and meteorites, because there was some guy who had a theory that life could exist on meteorites. Now, I'm not sure what you're supposed to have is if you have a rock in space, it's normally called an asteroid.
Mm-hmm.
Then a meteor is what you see in the sky, the shooting star. That is a meteor. But the thing that's actually coming through the atmosphere and lands on the ground, that is a meteorite. It is only a
Right.
meteorite once it lands on the ground. So he was talking about life on meteorites. And I'm like, okay, what do you mean though? Do you mean life on asteroids? Or do you mean
Yeah, I think
life
so.
that's coming to Earth from meteorites? And then when they eventually discover a micrometeorite in the spacecraft or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? The satellite. And they call it a meteor. They're like, now we found the meteor. No, you didn't. You found the meteorite. Now you're using the wrong term again. The meteor it's only a meteor when it is actually burning up in the sky. So there was a little bit of misuse of the terms there, a little
Yeah,
bit
no, that would
pedantic,
bother
but
you.
it definitely bothers me, yeah, for sure.
um, so yeah, I want to talk about, like I mentioned, the plot mechanics that get weird,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Because
mm.
so you have these world-ending stakes, very tense stakes, all this containment and bombs
Yeah,
being all these things being thrown around that could possibly happen. So what I have what I think happened in the film, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, from my memory, is
all right.
that the Andromeda strain mutates into a non-lethal plastic-eating form,
Yeah, I think
right?
so.
And then there is a containment breach. Only then, when it's safe,
Right.
right? So,
Yes, I think
firstly, that
so.
it mutates on its own, boring. That sucks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Containment breach after it's safe. That sucks.
Yes,
And then we have the detonation countdown. So
right,
when I said it was a cop out, it's like you're not even
right.
giving him the decision. He just has to turn off the nuke. He just has to, because there's no risk here. There's absolutely no
Yeah,
risk at all to any human being.
he's actually it's only saving their lives. It's no longer the fate of the planet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So he's not even confronted with this horrible choice of killing
yeah,
myself or and saving humanity, or
yeah.
taking the chance.
Well,
Uh,
as I said earlier as well, they went on and on about the odd man hypothesis and everything, and then they never really used it. It was like, okay, the whole point was supposed to be he is going to be faced with this difficult choice, right? So, it
yeah,
would have been, do you choose between my own life and the lives of the people here, or do we save the planet from this deadly virus? But
yeah,
the
and he doesn't
virus
get to do
wasn't
it.
deadly, and everyone was in agreement with his decision. So you've taken the whole thing away.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
And
you're
the
right.
other thing from that, right? So it's almost like the film was like, oh, geez, we are a thriller. We have to have some
Yeah.
thrills. So we're gonna try here. We're gonna do a
Yeah, yeah.
countdown. It's neat. I
He should have
enjoyed
just
it.
waited, it's like Galaxy's Edge. It probably doesn't reach zero, at one, it's just like, oh no, but the
Yeah,
countdown never reaches zero.
yeah. Um, but another weird.
Or Galaxy Quest, not
Yeah,
Galaxy's
yeah,
Edge.
yeah, sorry. Yeah,
My
I should
bad.
have corrected you there.
Yeah.
I knew what you meant. Um, there's another weird story moment with that, is that we open with the Senate hearing, or the Senate hearing is in the beginning of the film, where they're talking
Hmm.
about all these things that happen. And Dr. Stone is the one who is unpacking everything that happened. And he's still in the wildfire base. So we know he survives. I mean, I didn't pick this up because all these white
Oh,
guys look the same in this film. It's
well,
really
yeah,
simple.
exactly.
So, but
That's why I didn't know
yeah,
that. Okay.
we didn't. both of us didn't clock it, but the fact that
Right.
it's done that way is also quite strange.
It is a bit strange, yeah. Okay.
But
Interesting.
the chase is fun, and I like the lasers. The lasers are really well presented. I thought
Yeah, they
the
are quite
burns
cool.
brutal, and the fact that there's no kind of energy beam like we would see in Star Trek
Yeah.
is really fun.
Yeah.
Um,
No, and I also just love the sort of weird camera motions and stuff, sort of
yeah,
giving motion sickness vibes.
yeah,
It did sort of feel like, whoa, this guy's about to pass out.
yeah.
I enjoyed those sort of effects.
So it's a strange ending. I thought.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem to be a bad ending necessarily. It's just sort of like this could have been worse.
Yeah, like I said with the whole film, the pieces are there. You have
Yeah,
the kind of rough structure of there's a countdown and a bomb and a
yeah,
containment breach, but they're all kind of put together in this weird way that
yeah.
the tension is kind of sapped out of
And
it.
then it did sort of end, and I'm like, it's ended. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I sort of thought that there were going to
it
be
was
like 10
very
more minutes
abrupt.
or whatever. I was just like, oh, we're done now.
Yeah,
But I mean, also now in a post-COVID world, right? I mean, I'm sort of thinking, because I think the ending is kind of supposed to be a warning, because it's like this could have been so much worse. Like, thank God
yes,
it mutated into a non-lethal version, but it could have gotten out, and look how ill-equipped we were, right? So I think
yes,
that's sort of the intention of it. It's like, because it's sort of, I don't know, don't forget, I don't remember what they said, but it's sort of like, yes, what will we do next time,
yeah,
right? Something like that. So I think that's sort of the intention, but you have to go looking for that message. It's not like very well presented.
yeah. Yeah, so maybe if we move on to final thoughts
Yeah,
at
I
this
reckon.
point. So I guess just a summary of what I said. I just aesthetically great visual sense of
Absolutely, yeah.
from Robert Wise. A great set design. Really enjoyed being in those spaces,
Yes, yeah.
but ultimately very boring for a thriller. A terrible cast. I don't really have a problem with the performances. It's just the act of casting was badly
Yes,
done, right?
yeah.
And really strange plot mechanics in the end. I think
Yeah.
are my main bugbears here, and I feel like these are things that both the novel and the miniseries. There's a miniseries remake which
Oh,
actually has a
oh,
pretty
which is more modern, hey?
yeah
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
has a pretty robust cast if you go look.
Okay, okay.
So I think you know we're just talking about this film and how that does it. I think those things might be answered
Might be addressed. Yeah,
in
yeah,
those
yeah.
other media.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I would be interested in the book, I think.
I agree. I do want to read
Yeah,
it.
I reckon the book is quite a bit more interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad I ticked it off the list. But
Me too. Me too. I mean, I tend to agree with the sort of opinion. I mean, I did enjoy the sort of old school sci-fi feeling of it. I just love
yeah,
watching old school sci-fi from that sort of era. It just makes me happy. Whether it's good or not, I just love watching it. I'm like, oh, this is so cool, right?
yeah,
Like
I can
watching
imagine
classic
you
sci-fi.
with all the gadgets and gizmos. You would
Exactly,
love
the
that stuff.
gadgets and
Yeah,
gizmos and the computers and stuff. I,
yeah,
I do love it, but even as I was loving it, I was watching it. I was like, yeah, this shouldn't have been in the movie, right? Like, you need an editor here to come and be like, nope, you need
which
a.
is that's so interesting that you say that because Robert Wise came up as an editor. He edited Citizen Kane.
Oh, interesting.
so
Oh my god. Okay.
so
Jesus.
he. I mean,
Wow.
editing and directing are so tied together. You would think
Yeah.
that he would
Yeah.
have an instinct there to do
Yeah.
something about it. But maybe we're indulging a filmmaker who's won Best Picture and Best Director twice in one decade. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, and also I think we can see what the themes are doing here, but it doesn't feel as potent as it could be
Yeah.
in a
No,
way
for
that
sure.
we're so on board with Jurassic Park, right? Which we keep comparing it to. We
Exactly.
know
Exactly.
exactly
Yeah.
what is being said there. We understand all the characters' points of view.
Yes. Yeah.
We form our own opinions very strongly in the course of watching the film,
Yes.
right? In relation to
Absolutely.
those themes,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we don't here, which is a shame.
And I mean, so you say this is before Jurassic Park in terms of writing, eh? Crichton?
Yeah, Jurassic Park was 1990, so it was a quick turnaround for a film.
Okay,
But
right.
it was a smash hit, so they quickly bought up the rights
Right,
and got
yeah.
the greatest filmmaker alive on board.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. They would need to do this justice, yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if that's then, an evolution in Crichton's own writing. This is
interesting.
sort of his early work then, where he's sort of not quite sure what to do with all the ideas that he has, right? It's sort of not quite as perfected as something like Jurassic Park. So, maybe Jurassic Park is this movie perfected, obviously with different themes, but like the sort of idea of taking
Yeah,
science and making a science fiction story out of it and
yeah, and like
implying all of those sort of things.
the point about casting is more than answered in Jurassic Park. It's a great cast. We
Right.
know
Yes, yes, yes,
we
yes.
latch onto these personalities so strongly. They're so different. They bounce off each other in interesting ways.
Yeah, yeah.
Richard Attenborough, come on, like Jeff
Yeah.
Goldblum, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
He's
for
such
crying
a
out loud, yeah.
Jeff Goldblum is always Jeff Goldblum in a movie. So you just need to figure out
Yes.
what movie he needs to be in, how to use that. Right?
Yeah, yeah. And he's the perfect Ian Malcolm as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
absolutely perfect casting choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if that's everything.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So that was the Andromeda Strain from 1971, of course. Yeah, glad I got it ticked off, like I said.
Yeah, me too. It has been on my list for a while.
Yeah. And of course, thank you very much for listening. Wherever you are, wherever you listen to us, do like, subscribe, comment. The engagement helps us, of course. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram at WhereNoPod. Recommend us to your mom, whatever you need to do.
Indeed.
Yeah, and we will be back next Monday with a very special film. I'm very excited for this one.
Yeah, me too.
Because Steven Spielberg of Jurassic Park, right,
Oh, right. Yeah.
is returning to science fiction with an original science fiction film, Disclosure
Exactly.
Day.
I mean,
Very exciting.
an original film as well. I'm
Yeah.
so starved for something like that. Like,
Yes.
give me original stuff. I don't care what it's like. Just do it.
Yes. I'm sure we'll have a conversation about
Yeah.
original ideas when we see that film.
For sure. For sure.
Very excited for that. So we'll see you next Monday for Disclosure Day. And as always, live long and prosper.